What's up, knife freaks, sharpness geeks, and purveyors of stabby goodness? Welcome to the Knife Freak Show. My name is Jonathan McNeese. This is my co-host, Miss Amy McNeese.
What's up, guys?
Hope everybody has had a fantastic week. We've had a pretty good week.
It's a new week, honey.
Well, yeah. Hope everybody had a fantastic week. Last week, we had a pretty fantastic week.
Our days just run together, so we don't know what week it is.
Yeah, like you work every day. It's kind of, they kind of run together on you. So, let's go over what we did last week. We made a bunch of knives.
Which is awesome.
Yep, that's awesome. We got, we did enough. To those of you that were on the Whatnot show already know we did enough that we were actually able to have some for the Whatnot show on Friday, which was great. I enjoyed being able to do that. We know not everybody is going to be able to go to Blade Show, so we're trying to kind of carve a few out that we can set aside to satisfy the people that aren't getting to go. Unfortunately, we can't sell any of the stuff that's going to be special for the show until after the show. Otherwise, it kind of wouldn't be fair to the people that are going to the show. So it's.
But we have had a lot of questions about when the
Little Dixon
will be available to people who are not going to the show. So you want to tell us the answer to that?
Pretty quickly, I would say we'll probably do a drop on the website and or Whatnot probably within the first 2 weeks after Blade Show, just kind of depending on how everything goes between now and then. I think we'll be able to have enough built to do a drop or maybe we may save a few back for Whatnot and then do some on the site or whatever.
And we've also already got a list of dealers signed up to get them. So.
Yeah, we do. So we'll be starting on our list of dealers and working our way through them. We probably won't send any to any of them, at least very few of them, until we do a drop, at least one drop on the website and some on Whatnot. So that looking really, really forward to that. Really looking forward to Blaze Show and get feedback on those in person, get people to handle them and see what they think. I'm very excited. I'm very happy with them. So I hope everybody else is.
But I got the first one.
Yes, she did.
People and Whatnot already know that.
Yep. So we should have brought it for show and tell, but yeah, that was what she got. Her Mother's Day gift was the very first Dixon little Dixon that anybody owns. It's hers.
That is the first time I've ever gotten the first of anything.
I think it might be too.
It almost made me cry.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Decked it out in purple for you, put some dog paw prints on the blade, so got it kind of customized to her. Believe me, she has more than earned it. I promise you. She should be getting the first of everything and the first 20 or 100 of everything, probably.
I don't think I need that.
Probably not, but
I might run out of places to put it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we got that done. We actually made even better progress than I thought we would on getting fixed blades done. I had multiple fixed blades, most of which are new models that we haven't ever done, and a couple that are models that we've only done a very few of. I was tentatively wanting to get them all done before Blade Show, and then I decided I didn't think that was going to happen, but I'll be damned if we hadn't done it. So we've still got to finish building them out, but the big holdup would be getting them ground and then out to get sheaths done, and the last one is going to go out on a overnight trip to our sheath people on Monday. They've assured me that they think they can get at least a handful of them done, so we're going to have a hell of a fixed blade lineup for Blade Show. You can tell I'm excited. Like I'm.
Well, the way you said that, you made it sound easy. But if you guys were here, you would have heard all the cussing and fussing and slamming and
yeah.
And honestly, like we haven't been going home until after 7 most nights.
Yeah.
So there's been lots of extra time, work, effort put into that, even though you just breezed through that and acted like it was a simple little.
We busted ass and got it done, put it that way. And to be honest with you, most of them didn't fight me as bad as I thought they were going to. So that's why it feels like it went relatively smooth. Like I said, I had pretty much completely given up on getting at least one of them done in time. But I assuming that everything goes good with getting a sample to the sheath guys and getting the sheaths back, we're going to be in really good shape. And I think that's going to make, if I counted up right, I think that's 7 different fixed blade models that we'll have for Blade Show, which is basically kind of a full fixed blade lineup, which I've been trying to get to for years now. like I've been saying for the last 2 to 3 years, that we were going to have a fixed blade lineup, probably, that we're going to basically have a full fixed blade lineup, you know, whatever, by the end of the year. And this year we've done it before halfway through the year. So we've got still more coming. We got the little pocket Tanto that some of you are familiar with. Those will not be at Blade Show. Those cannot get done because I'm still waiting on the little wheels to try to do the Tanto grind.
Let's talk about that for a second, because
Okay.
at Blade Texas, you explain to people, like, I've got to get these wheels. What I don't think you explained to them is the lead time on those wheels is like,
yeah,
I mean, we're going on 2 months, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just because we order them doesn't mean that.
Yeah, it's not. These are custom made CBN grinding wheels, guys. So they're not. This isn't like something we just hop on, you know, Amazon or whatever and just order, you know, and get them here. So when I say, yeah, that the wheels are holding us up, it's the lead time on the wheels. And then once they get here, you know, I'm making an educated guess that I'm going to be able to do the Tanto grinds with those wheels. I actually don't even know for sure yet. The computer simulation looks promising, but that never is 100% accurate. So that will definitely not happen before Blade Show, which also means, because I know everybody's going to be asking, we will not have Tanto bladed anything at Blade Show. I would love to. I promise I would.
Even if they got here tomorrow, like, that's not enough time.
Not enough time for me to get the programs done and make it happen. No.
And I think we could probably communicate a little bit better about, like, stuff like that.
Yeah, what the holdup is and stuff. So yeah, and just to break it down a little more for you guys, the reason I need more wheels is you know, if you guys know how I do my Tantos, are, you know, they're a fairly thin bevel, you know, coming down the Tanto tip. Well, the diameter of the wheel that you grind with, and this is true of whether you're hand grinding or whether you're grinding like we are on a machine with a wheel, the diameter of the wheel largely determines how wide the grind is going to be or how tall it's going to be. So you can manipulate it some when you're doing it by hand. You can't do much of that when you're doing it on a machine the way we currently do it. So the wheel that we're using to do the main bevels, because we don't want a super short bevel on those, we want a kind of tall, deep hollow grind on you know, pretty much all the blades. But to get down to a grind that would be narrow enough to not, you know, be ridiculous on the Tanto tip, we just can't do it with those wheels. I tried, and I can't do it, at least. Maybe somebody with better skills could, but it stands to reason, because those Tanto tips are, you know, they typically need a fairly small diameter wheel to grind, even if you're grinding them by hand. So that's where we're at on that. As soon as I can get the wheels and get all that figured out, then I promise you we'll have lots of different Tantos, including that pocket Tanto, which is another fixed blade that we'll have out before the end of the year. So, but we are going to have a really nice lineup of fixed blades, which I'm very excited about. Like, we won't have enough to actually kind of have a whole section of the table dedicated to them this year, kind of their own little display. So I'm very excited about that. That's going to be really cool. We've, you know, been known for our folders the entire time we've been doing this as a production company, basically. And, you know, I think a lot of people either don't know or have forgotten that I made gajillion fixed blades before I ever made a folder. So, and then after I made folders, like, that's what I cut my teeth on, just like most makers. So that's, you know, I definitely love fixed blades, though we've just been so focused on trying to figure out all the production of folders this whole time that fixed blades got pushed to the side. But I'm very, very excited about it. And I think you guys are going to be happy with the price points on some of these too. Those of you that have already got in on the foul plays, I think you saw that we had what I think is an excellent price point on those. Some of the rest of them probably aren't going to be quite as good a price point, but still, I think very, very reasonable on the fixed blades. So I'm excited about that too, to be able to offer something that's, you know, they're still not cheap knives, but they're a price point that's completely different than the folders. For somebody that wants to get in and, you know, be part of the brand and own something that we make, then that gives them an opportunity to get something without, if they can't spend, you know, $550, $600 on a folder, they can get in a nice high quality fixed blade for considerably less. So I'm very excited about that. All right. Speaking of excitement, we've got a story to tell. It's story time again, guys.
We weird week last week.
It was a very weird week. So this one doesn't involve any poltergeist or missing cups like our last story. This one is a little more directly.
I prefer the missing cups.
I kind of think I do too. All right. So last week.
It was on Wednesday.
On Wednesday of last week.
I've actually been in Birmingham most of the day.
Yes, we had to go to an appointment in Birmingham. So we were out of the shop a good chunk of the day. But later that day, we see, news feed comes along.
No, that all happened. The plane crash happened on Monday.
That's right. Let's back up. So yes, the incident that we're going to talk about happened on Wednesday. On Monday, we have an Air Force base about 45 minutes from us. And they, fighter jets and sometimes helicopters, but a lot of times fighter jets fly over here pretty frequently, and just normal training and stuff. And so some of you may have seen it on the news, but they crashed a fighter jet, not a fighter, a fighter jet. That's a new category. They crashed a fighter jet, which ended up crashing about 2 miles from our shop. Which as you know with an airplane, with the angles they come down and all that, like that's pretty damn close.
I'm just glad they didn't hit
I am so glad it didn't hit the shop. It was, and thankfully the pilots and the pilot and the co-pilot ejected. They're fine. Nobody was hurt on the ground either, as far as I know. Like, it was no major injuries or no fatalities, which is great.
We live in a very rural area.
Thank goodness. Right. So it didn't hit any houses or anything that we know of. So that's fantastic. So, that happened. We knew, that was crazy. We talked about it some and then went on about our business. Well, then 2 days later on Wednesday, like she said, we had been gone most of the day. That night, we're at the house. We hadn't been at the house too long. Like she said, we've been out here till 7:00 or after most nights. Our night shift guy calls, and I didn't initially hear it ring, I saw the voicemail and I listened to it, and so boil it down, we got raided, guys. The freaking sheriff's department, along with a whole slew of
military CIS
U.S. Air Force investigative unit, whatever their acronym or whatever it is, were out here at the shop. And by the time we got out here, our guy had already let them in. They had searched the entire shop. They had searched his car.
But hold on, because they said that they had a GPS locator in the airplane seat and that it was pinging in our shop.
Yeah, so we went back. They had actually tried to call the shop phone that stays out here, and so we had not gotten the message. But it literally said, hey, we're a piece of our equipment is showing that it's inside your shop and we need to take a look or whatever. So, which, look, don't get me wrong, guys. I'm all for helping, the military, the police, whatever. Like, we didn't,
But if we would have found a piece of the seat, it would be in the garbage can outside.
Like,
not inside the shop.
It was just so bizarre. And so they, like I said, they had already come in and searched everything except our office, which was locked. And so we talked to them for a few minutes, and they were, telling us the whole deal. And they were friendly. And then I came out, I asked them, I was like, well, do you want to go ahead and search the office? And she didn't search that. So I brought them in, I unlocked the office. They poked around in there for a second, and everything was good. So then they're saying that, it's like, they showed me what it would look like. It was, I guess, another piece that they had found. It was like a portion of one of the seats or something, and supposedly had a tracker in it. And they were saying it was pinging like it was inside our shop, and which makes no sense. Like, it's obviously not here. Don't know why it would be. I've got plenty of junk of my own. I don't need to be collecting junk from a plane crash. But so then they said, this is where it gets a little weird and kind of, I don't know, starts to get a little fishy almost. They said, okay, well, we're probably going to come back tomorrow and bring some dogs and sniff around, like, on the property and stuff like that, and see if we can locate there. Like, it might be up on top of a tree or who knows.
Sure.
Yeah.
So then it went from it's in your shop to it could be anywhere.
Yes, because they were very confident at first that, like, it was in the shop. And so then when they didn't find it in the shop, well, then it's like, they back off and it's like, well, it could be, around the brush or in a tree or whatever. So anyway, So that way we're going to come back tomorrow and search or whatever. And then tomorrow rolled around and we never heard from them again. Which kind of makes me believe that they were bluffing, that they didn't actually have anything that was pinging inside the shop. Why they decided to, I don't know if we've pissed some neighbors off and they just decided to, cause us a little grief and send them our way, or if we just look suspicious. I mean, some of us kind of look a little suspicious anyway.
I definitely don't want your garbage though. Like,
I definitely don't want a piece of the seat out of a plane crash.
Funnily enough, the garbage containers that are sitting right out there did not get searched. I'm not really sure if we were so adamant that we needed to find it, why we didn't search the garbage.
Yeah.
Other than it was nasty.
It was really weird. I mean, it's not like, there was definitely a plane crash. It was definitely close. So, it's not like they were just out here. They didn't make the whole story up, of course, but just the fact that they wanted to search our shop for a piece of wreckage was just what they thought. What they said was they thought that somebody, because they found everything else pretty much in a fairly small radius, and they were thinking that somebody had apparently gotten to the crash site, picked something up, and taken it off somewhere. And so I'm.
Thought he wanted.
That's what I have no idea. There's people. There's weirder things out there for sure. I'm sure there's people that would do that, but.
I tried to send some trash with them. I tried to get them to take some of this stuff. But
yeah, we're like, they
weren't interested.
We ain't got your plane seat, but if you want to haul some other junk off with you, you're welcome to, because we got plenty that we need to get rid of.
They did give me a patch. I did get a patch out of it.
Yeah.
My mom was like, did they think you were 12? And I was like, well, maybe. It was a total misunderstanding, though. We were discussing our employee that works overnight was telling them that we have T-shirts and all this other stuff, and they said, what about patches? And I said, well, it's really been difficult to find USA made patches. And one of the younger guys was nice enough to start pulling up on his phone to show me where they get their patches. And the older gentleman heard me say something about, I want a patch. And so he gave me a patch. And then I got the website too. And I was like, well, I'm keeping your patch. So,
so we did get something out of it. And I tried to turn it into a business deal. I was handing out, one of them I actually asked as we were coming back in once we got out here. Like I said, so here, let me paint the picture a little more for you. So like I said, they'd already been in and searched the shop and all that. This is at 8 o'clock at night.
20 people though.
Yeah, it's already dark.
Tons of people.
We drive, our driveway is about 100 yards long. House is at one end of the driveway, the shop's at the other end. So we hop on our Polaris and we head up here. We roll up and there's Doug standing outside leaning against his car, who's our night shift guy.
His car.
I said that earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so
Did you tell him that Doug didn't even know that there was a plane crash?
No, our employee Doug, he didn't even know a plane had crashed. So it was really, he was in here working, somebody's banging on the door. He goes to the door and it's like, I don't know how many of them there were, but it was at least 10 or 12 between the Air Force people, most of the Air Force people, and then including like the base commander or whatever. That was who.
And then the local sheriff's department.
And the local sheriff's department had at least 2 or 3 people here, and it was like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 cars. I don't know. I didn't
it was
count.
Dark,
like I said, it was count. So we roll up out here, and I swear to God, it looked like, you would have thought we were like being for real rated, like anyway.
So if a neighbor did report us, they were probably standing outside laughing.
I'm sure. But anyway, I tried to turn it into a business thing, because we rolled up and they were, we were going in to let them look at the office, and one of them was like, hey, kind of a side quest, like, where do you guys sell your knives or whatever? So I grabbed a handful of business cards and started handing out business cards, all of them, and started asking the base commander about, if they're issued knives for the pilots, and I actually hit him up too about, because we've been wanting, with that military base that close to us, I've been wanting to get a connection there to be able to potentially find some employees that are transitioning out of the Air Force and be able to, hire some veterans in the area. So nothing may come of any of it, but we did turn it into at least.
Me about my plant. I have 2 plants in my office that my sweet aunt, God love her, has brought me. And I cannot keep plants at the house because the dogs will end up digging in them. And we've been through that too many times. I'm not going through that again.
Yeah.
So it's a peace lily. It definitely needs a bigger pot, but it is thriving in a smaller pot. But they shamed me about my plant.
Yeah, apparently one of them, the like lead investigator lady, was apparently a big plant person, and she shamed me about it first. She was like something about that peace lily. I was like, that ain't mine. I don't know what to tell you. You got to talk to my wife about that. So anyway, so that's how. And again, we may end up hearing something else from it, but that was that. I guess that's the end of it, unless they come back and somebody buys a knife or something, because I have no idea if they found their part that they were looking for, or if they just gave up or whatever. Like I said, I'm highly suspicious now that you know, that maybe the whole pinging inside the shop thing was basically a bluff so they could come look, and that maybe somebody had told them to come look here. I just can't figure out why, other than
in the shop, is if it landed in the dog fence area and Roscoe ate it.
And from what they described, it was a decent size. Like, they described it as like the size of like a small briefcase kind of deal. But, you know, then I had the thought afterwards, I was like, well, it's that, but if it's got a tracker in it, well, who's to say the thing didn't completely bust apart and like just the little tracker got, you know, fell out of the sky somewhere or whatever. And I have no idea how big the little tracker is, but I mean, it could be the size of a coin or something. And I mean, it might never find, I don't know.
Stuck to the bottom of somebody's shoe.
Who knows? But yeah, I looked up on the next day. I was like driving out here and looking up on the roof of the shop to make sure it wasn't up there, which I was fairly confident it's something that we would have known if something that size hit the roof of the shop, because everybody in here would have shit their pants, because that would have been pretty loud falling out of the sky, a briefcase size object. So, yep, that was our fun little story, for a little exciting to roll out here and have the local sheriff's department and a whole pile of Air Force investigators out here. That's not something we run across every day, but there we were.
It ain't the first time the sheriff's department's been out here, so.
Yeah. It is to the shop.
To the shop, yes.
Yeah.
We won't get into the rest of that.
Yeah, this was before we lived in it's when somebody else had the house that we have and stuff like that. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, it was really funny that Doug, our night shift guy, like she said, he didn't even know that there had been a plane crash, and so I could just imagine what was.
These people are about to get me arrested.
That's what there's no telling what was going through his mind. You know, like, what have they gotten me into? What are they doing in this shop that I don't know about?
So, I look good in orange, and I also do not like breaking the law, so it ain't happening.
Yeah, no. We didn't have anything to hide. Like I said, we turned it into a networking / selling opportunity. So we'll see if any of that pays off. But I have no idea if they found their seat or not. But good luck to them. All right, so moving on. That was this week's story. Maybe we won't have anything super crazy happen this coming week. I do like telling the stories, but a little, you know.
Well, you know, something else crazy happened last week too that segues into like how thankful we are that we're able to do this. The nurse at the hospital, the hospital that I worked at for, oh my goodness, 20 something years, either worked directly for or worked in a capacity that I had to be there. A case manager, a nurse case manager, was walking to her car and brought up open daylight, 4:30 in the afternoon, and a guy walks up and tries to take her purse from her and then shoots her and kills her. The same parking lot that I parked in every day for many, many years.
Yep.
So of all the other reasons that I'm so thankful that we're able to do this, that's yet another reason that I'm very thankful that we're able to do this. Yep.
And now, like I said, that's, you know, she's a few years removed from that, but like you said, and this parking lot is kind of like a satellite parking lot. It's kind of far away. It really is a safety risk kind of anyway. And unfortunately, they learned that the hard way. But made me extremely thankful I've told her multiple times that us reaching the point in the business where she could come to work for the business full time and live. I mean, she had a really good, successful sales career in the medical sales field, and for her to be able to turn loose from that and come to the business full time, number one, it's been huge for the business itself. And then, you know, you guys have seen the growth and everything over the last, 3 or 4 years. I know a lot of you probably have just found us in that amount of time, but but her coming on full time has been a huge part of that. And then for me, knowing that she's not out there, like I said, she's driving 100 yards up the driveway in her Polaris, usually with her dogs with her. And so, not having to worry about her being over there in that parking lot or here and there and everywhere, running around doing sales and off the road has been a huge factor for us as far as our quality of life. So, yes, this is a perfect time to stop and say thank you guys. We appreciate it, because without you guys supporting us, buying our products, even just spreading the word, sharing our posts, all that kind of stuff, we wouldn't be able to do this. She'd still be working that job. I'd still be working some other job. So we and all of our other guys that work here would be, doing something else as well. Who knows what? Definitely not something as cool as making knives, because I don't think there's much of anything as cool as making knives. But
poor dogs would have to stay home by themselves all day long.
That's right.
That would be that
would be horrible for them. So thank you guys. We appreciate that. It does, it makes a real world impact, and that goes along with supporting small businesses. It's not just us. I mean, there's lots of small businesses out there that it has that same kind of effect on. So when you're doing your shopping, you're spending your dollars, think about that. I know everything we buy can't come from small mom and pop operations, but when you can, definitely try to support the smaller places, because it makes way more of an impact for them than it does the huge corporations and stuff. So just keep that in mind. But to segue that into one thing I wanted to talk about today, we've touched on it a little bit, and I think me and Chase maybe talked about it some in the past, but I don't know how many people we have that listen that are either already knife makers or aspiring to be knife makers, but I thought it might not be a bad idea to pass on some of the knowledge that I've picked up over the years, as far as, and we'll start with super basic stuff, not necessarily the real technical stuff about how to make knives. That's going to be, that's not really something for a podcast. That's more for like a YouTube series or something, which who knows, we may do one day. But I wanted to talk more about kind of like the business side of it and just the mindset of it. And so the first thing is, this is going to sound super simple, but guys, if you have the itch to try knife making, then just do it. Just try it. It's not that complicated. It's really not. You just dive in. You don't have to have a ton of equipment. I can't say that I did not start with just a file and a piece of steel, but you can do that and see how you like it and go through the rest of the processes. And if the bug bites you, then you can go ahead, or you can get a little cheap grinder like I did to start with, which was not even a knife grinder. And I don't know, some of you at least have heard the story. I won't go into the whole thing, but had just a little cheap, super crappy woodworking grinder, ground out a few blades on that, made myself a Franken grinder, ground out several hundred blades on that before I actually invested in a real store-bought grinder. And so and people, one of the most common questions I've always gotten is, well, where do you get your supplies, or where do you get this? Guys, it's like a 20-second Google search can find you all the supplies that you need. There's companies like USA Knife Maker Supply, Alpha Knife Supply, Jantz, where you can get on there, you can order almost every single thing you need.
Or you can go to Blade Show and shop their booth. That's
right. Or you can go to Blade Show and there's tons of supplies there. You can pick up steel, you can pick up handle material, and this is true at Blade Show or any of these sites. You can pick up, sandpaper, basically all the things you need. It's really not. Now, I know in the beginning when you don't really know what you need, but again, that's where watching tutorials on YouTube and stuff like that come from, or reading books, which I did some of, but and then went on to mostly just trial and error it, but definitely, looked at stuff online some. YouTube wasn't real big yet at the time. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't like the resource it is today back when I started doing this in 2008.
Well, you started researching this.
Yeah, I started researching it even before that. So, but guys, I think a lot of people just and this is true of a lot of things. People just get too scared to start. Don't have the analysis or paralysis by analysis. Like there's no reason to do that. It's not that big a deal. You're going to screw stuff up. You're going to waste some steel. Don't expect your first one to come out and be a masterpiece and whatever. If you scrap it, then you scrap it. Buy some cheap steel to start with, so it's not hurting you that bad, and just do your best and just keep trying to improve. Like it's really that simple. And I would highly recommend, I know there's a lot of people out there, this may be a little bit of a controversial take, but I know there's a lot of people out there that kind of at least tell themselves that they're starting down that road by starting to do mods on other knives and stuff. Personally, that was never really my thing. Let me think before I say, other than maybe something stupid when I was a kid or something, like when I actually got interested in actually making knives, I didn't start by modding knives. That's not to say that just because I did it that way, that's the way to do it. But again, you're only going to learn so much modding knives, and most of the knives that you're modding are probably considerably more expensive than just a blank piece of steel that you can mess around on. So like you're actually, increasing your odds of wasting money by trying to mod a knife that you already paid probably a decent amount for. And like you'd be better off honestly with just going and getting a piece of steel and getting after it. Like there are things you can do, guys. I mean, with like, I'm not saying that all of them were the right way, but I could not tell you how many knives I cut out, either the blades or the fixed blades. When I was doing, this was mostly fixed blades or even some folder blades, that I would cut the steel out with a angle grinder with a cutoff wheel on it. Like I'd clamp it up on the table and I would just freehand cut it out as close as I could, and then I would take it to the grinder and finish up, because obviously you can't cut out the profile super close with a angle grinder, but I'd get it as close as I could. Then I would take it to the actual grinder and I'd start cleaning it up. A bandsaw, a cheap bandsaw doesn't cost that much, and there's water jet services that are not, in the grand scheme of things, are not that expensive. Like you can get a water jet service to cut some parts for you, and then you can skip. If you don't have a bandsaw or a good way to cut stuff, especially if you're trying to do folders and you're trying to do titanium, hit up a water jet guy. Sure, in the beginning, if you're just doing a handful of pieces, it's not going to be as cost efficient as doing more volume, but it's still, the services are there. You can have it done. A lot of the places I know that what's his name, Aldo, New Jersey Steel Bearing. I know that New Jersey Steel Bearing, I don't think they carry titanium, but on their steel that they carry, they can water jet cut it too. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop. You can order some steel, have them water jet cut it for you, and then there you go, you're off and running. So it doesn't take as much as what most people think. Most people just end up procrastinating and putting it off because it seems, you're just not used to it and you're not familiar with it. So people just hesitate, and they hesitate themselves out of ever actually trying what they wanted to try. And I would honestly try it. I would try to find, and sometimes maybe you can find somebody local that has equipment that you can go and try. And I know there's some of the colleges and stuff have programs now where they have knife makers come in and do some classes and stuff. So that way you can actually try it, because I wouldn't recommend going out and buying thousands of dollars worth of equipment until you've tried it enough to figure out if you're actually going to like it or not. Because I can promise you,
it's very dirty work.
It's the thought of making knives is way more glamorous than actually making knives. You're going to burn your fingers. You're going to get dust all over you. It's going to be nasty. It's nasty. It's hard work. It's frustrating work because it's a hand eye, especially depending on what you're doing. If you're learning to grind bevels, and especially if you're doing like I do and learn to grind them freehand, then like you're going to screw stuff up. No matter what you do, you're going to screw some stuff up. But it takes time. It's frustrating, and it's not for everybody. I mean, some people try it and dabble in it and decide it's not for them, and they move on, and that is totally fine. There's other things that aren't for me, by all means. I care nothing about tinkering on cars and stuff like that, and I know some people absolutely love it. I hate it. So it's just, I enjoy working with my hands. I don't enjoy doing that with my hands. That's not, I would rather make knives. So it's just one of those things. But don't think you've got to get all the big expensive equipment and, just get the bare minimum to get started and give it a whirl and see how you like it, because otherwise you're not going to know. And then you don't want to keep on, and then down the road, 20 years from now or whatever, be wondering, well, what if I could have done that or whatever? Because anybody can do it if you're willing to put in the time and the effort to stick with it long enough. Like, it's definitely not, it is not complicated enough that everybody couldn't do it. Like, literally anybody can do it if you're willing to pay the price.
Well, and let me add, not to turn this into a marital counseling session, but support your spouse. Like there's nothing on this earth that I could come in and say I'm in a try that he would not support me in.
Yeah.
Like, nothing. And so support your spouse. Like,
yeah. And she has obviously supported me. Yeah.
Let him try it.
Yep. You never know what it might turn into. I mean, this all started with me, telling her one day, hey, I think I'm going to go try to make a knife.
Which I think was in 2006.
Think so? It may have been.
You sold your first knife around 2007. Yeah. I know we say the company started in 2008, but that's because neither of us can remember.
We didn't actually have records of it. And again, believe it or not, that was back before you literally took pictures and recorded everything on your phone. I mean, some of it was happening
on my phone. I mean,
right. Yeah, that's all gone by the wayside.
At that point in time, people weren't walking around constantly connected.
It wasn't the same. That was before. The same. There were.
That's when we were still living.
We were still living real lives, not just digital lives. So anyway, sound like old codgers over here.
Whatever, I take that back any day of what it is.
It is what it is. It was definitely better in a ton of ways. So I do like being able to, the communication we get to do with our customers and stuff is obviously a plus for us, but there's a whole lot about it that's also negative. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. So moving on again, that's like, I don't want to get too technical on the stuff because again, this is not really the best platform for that. But the other thing I will tell you are like some kind of best business practices. All right. So for one thing, I would highly encourage you to, well, I don't think it's really necessary in the very beginning. When you first try it, it's totally fine to treat it like a hobby. Don't worry about trying to make money off of it because that's just going to stress you out, because in the beginning, you're going to struggle to get something that looks decent and all that. But after you've done it a little bit, nothing at all wrong with starting to treat it like a business. I pretty much treated it like a business pretty much from day one. And along with that went reinvesting the money. So, again, I had very little money invested in the equipment and stuff to start with. I would invest in some, the actual materials.
But you also still worked your full-time job until 2014.
That's right. This was back when I was still working a full-time job and then, doing this very heavily on the side. It was almost like working 2 full-time jobs, honestly. And again, that all just depends on what you want out of it. I mean, not everybody wants to do this for a living. Some people just want to make knives and do it as a hobby or whatever. But regardless of how you do it, but especially if you have any thought of wanting to do it as a business, like full-time one day, then you definitely need to start off right out of the gate, treating it like a business, thinking about your reputation, building your reputation. Don't get butthurt when people, you don't get the same kind. You don't just immediately put something out there and it doesn't get, all the hype that you think that, that you see other people getting. Guys, sometimes people just whether they know how to market or they just are like kind of a prodigy right off the bat and they come out with something super cool. Some people are able to build up the hype pretty quick and easy, but most of us have spent, years, decades building up to get to the point where enough people know your reputation and know your name and appreciate your products enough to actually get some hype built up around them.
Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of those prodigies come and go.
Come and go. That's right. And think about the long term with everything that you do. Like, it's not, if you want to do this, like I said, and make a living out of it, then you have to think about it like that. And so one of the things I know we saw something, it's classic, one of the worst classic mistakes that you can make is taking deposits or pre-sales on stuff that you're making. I know in some ways it seems like a great way to take care of the cash flow. You got money coming in to buy your materials, so on and so forth. But so many times, guys, so many times, I think most people that do that start out with good intentions. They don't have any intention to screw people over. But you get that money from, say, a deposit. You take a deposit on an order, and then before you know it, you've spent that money on more materials or something like that, and then you're getting behind on orders. Well, then you get behind, something goes wrong, you got this order you got to get out, and then you got, because you almost never have, you're probably not just working with like one order that you took one deposit for. You may have multiple orders, you may have dealer stuff going on. If you're trying to really grow and do things right, you're probably doing shows, and so you got all these things pulling you in all these different directions, and before you know it, these people that put deposits down, they're waiting on their product, they're waiting on their product, they're waiting on their product, and then before you know it, your reputation's trash because you've drawn it out so far, or it reached the point where basically it's just the person's never going to get their item, and that's a surefire way to basically kill your business right off the bat. So I absolutely, have not ever believed in taking deposits. I don't. People ask us a lot about doing pre-sales. I think the only pre-sale that we've ever done was selling to a dealer, which is kind of a different story. We have an ongoing, and we only did that one time, and even that honestly stressed me out like bad. Like I haven't done it since because it was just, we knew we owed them the knives. You're trying to balance having knives for this, having knives for that, and you need to get those out the door to them. Like I knew we would get them. There was no doubt in my mind that we were going to, not get them their product. But the amount of time it was taking, it was just stressing me out until we could get them out the door. So it's a bad idea, guys. I know there are people out there that have done it and made it work for years. And there are, good people out there that know how to manage their workflow and they can make it work. But way too many people, I've seen way too many people completely kill their business and their reputation by doing that. So at the very, very least, be extremely careful and cautious and make sure like you're a super organized, because like I said, I think almost everybody that happens to, there's a few that are just straight up scammers, but I think that the vast majority of people that have gotten caught up in that had good intentions. It just got away from them, and it just sucks. So another thing that goes along kind of with that is just being honest, guys. And a lot of that goes along with, because every time one of those stories happens, it's the person came along, they got this excuse and that excuse and whatever. Just be honest with people, guys, and do the right thing. If the right thing means that you have to refund somebody's money because you've spent way too long not being able to build their knife after you took a deposit, well, yeah, you may have already spent that money, but you better do whatever you got to do to come up with the money to be able to send them to refund their money or whatever, because it's not worth it. That money from that deposit is going to be a drop in the bucket compared to what it's going to cost you in the long run. So just do the right thing. Do the right thing by people. Always go a little above and beyond. You can't let yourself be a pushover, because there's people out there that will try to take advantage of you. And I can go ahead and tell you, the bigger you get, the more that's going to happen. People are going to come along and try to find ways to take advantage.
Oh, yeah. This was the week of fraud on top of all the other stuff.
Yeah. So that's something we can get into another day. But that kind of stuff is going to happen. But do the right thing, take the high road, and don't let yourself be a pushover, but just do the right thing. And that will cover 90% of what you need to do to be a good businessman knife maker. Just doing right by people, being honest, being open with what you're doing. We had somebody comment a couple of our Whatnot shows back. I forget what it even was we were talking about. Somebody was asking about, maybe it was our hardware or something. And I just told them, I told them where we get our stuff from or whatever. If it was, I don't remember for sure if it was hardware, but we were get hardware from Tie Connector. That's where everything comes from. And they were like, oh man, this guy just don't hold anything back. He's telling everything. I'm like, well,
I'm pretty sure it's on our website.
That is, but I don't think it was the hardware. It was something else, but it was nothing that was a big deal to me. It was like we don't have anything to hide. Like this.
I think everybody that we get everything from is on the website.
Yeah, I think it is pretty much. Right? Yeah, I think so. So like, if you're doing things, if you're doing your very best, everybody makes mistakes, everybody can screw up, but if you're doing your best to do the right thing all the time, then you don't have anything to hide. You don't have to worry about being found out. And we've all seen multiple people over the last few years that have not taken that road and weren't doing the right thing and were being shady about it and not being open about what they were doing. And guess where those people are? If they're not out of business, they're definitely not where they want to be, I promise you, because they definitely took a hit. So, and it's just the right thing to do. Like, I like being able to sleep at night. So, one other thing that's kind of along that line is not so much about like honesty and doing the right thing, but just general advice for new makers would be when you do start to have a little success and you're selling stuff and you start to have a secondary market for your stuff. So when your stuff starts hitting the secondary market and it's selling for, more than what you're selling it for at your retail price, your table price, be very, very careful about chasing the secondary, guys. So like what happens a lot, and I can't remember who told me. I honestly think it may have just been something that people were saying on the forums at the time. I can't remember if it was an actual individual that told me or not, but I remember way back when we first started, people, I saw or heard advice that was like, don't chase the secondary. Like that's all that's going to do is get you in trouble. And I've seen it happen to multiple people since then. What happens is you're making something, you're putting it out for what you think is a fair price, but then people start coming up, buying your stuff, and then turn around. And in the heyday, especially back several years ago, I'm sure it still happens some, but it was not uncommon at all for somebody to get in a lotto at Blade Show and buy a knife that the table price was, say, $650 and turn around and flip it and make double or triple that on it, literally standing there at the table. Like somebody would be standing there in line behind them, they pick the knife, turn around, and somebody would offer them, $1,200 or $2,000 for that $650 knife. And so when you're the maker and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I just got $650 for that. This guy literally just entered a lottery, picked up the knife and handed me the money, and now he just made more money than I did. That can be frustrating. But if you start trying to chase that, eventually there's a really good chance that the hype is going to die down, the secondary is going to ease off, and then you're going to be stuck with higher price stuff that nobody's going to want to pay that for, and it's not a good look at all to have to lower your prices. Like that's pretty much a death spiral when you start down that road, because you got to keep in mind, guys, a lot of what drives the secondary, one thing that drives it is availability, scarcity. So if something's hard to get, there's not a lot of it, then obviously it's going to draw higher prices on the secondary because there's not enough supply for the demand that's out there. All right, so that's one factor. But another factor is actually the ability for people to make money on it. So in other words, a lot of those guys, and we've seen it, we saw it every show ourselves. A lot of the times people would go around and get in lotteries. They had no intention of actually keeping the knife. They would get in lotteries simply because they knew that if they got the knife, that they could turn around and make money off of it. And they might want to keep it, they might keep it for a couple of weeks, check it out, play with it a little bit, and then turn around and sell it, and at the very least be able to get their money out of it. And, when things go real well for the secondary, you can actually make a profit on it. And the ability to make a profit on the secondary is a lot of what drives the secondary. If somebody does not think, you think about it, a lot of you guys have probably done this yourselves, and I'm not criticizing it. It's like the secondary market is kind of a necessary thing. It's part of it. It's part of our business. So, if you know that you can make money off of something, you're way more likely to buy it, even maybe you can't quite afford it at the time or whatever. You're like, oh, I'm going to see if I can get it on this drop. If I get it, I can just turn around and sell it and, make a little money off of it. And that happens all the time. And I'm not knocking it, but you don't want to chase that with your retail prices, because eventually you squeeze out the ability for people to make a profit on your stuff, and then they're no longer going to want to buy it. And then all of a sudden you wonder why the market dried up and people aren't buying your stuff. Well, it's because there's no you didn't leave any meat on the bone. Like there's nothing there for people to make a profit on. And so, they're not going to buy it as much. I totally get it that it's frustrating to see other people making as much or more profit than you are off of a product that you're making, and they're literally just buying it and reselling it. So you also don't want your prices too low. You've got to find a reasonable balance there. But if you start looking at like, okay, if you start looking at it, well, people are selling my knives. I'm selling them for $650, and people are regularly selling them for $850 on the secondary. So you bump your price all the way up to like $800. Well, that's your secondary is probably going to tank pretty quickly, and you're not going to be able to keep selling as many knives at that price. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of dries itself up when you do that. So be extremely careful chasing the secondary. Be more than extremely careful doing anything where you take deposits or you go ahead and take people's money when the product is not ready, because too many good people have completely ruined their business trying to do that, and it gets away from people. So, and just treat people right, do the right thing. And another big thing is don't get too carried away about trying to be a baller, and you're making all this money, bringing this money in, and then you're spending it on this and that. Reinvest as much of it as you possibly can into your business if you want to have a long-term success. All right, because that's what it takes for pretty much any business, whether it's in the knife industry or not. If you can take the money that you're making and invest as big of a percentage of it as you can back in your business, that's how you grow. That's what we've done from day one. That's what we're still doing. It's painful sometimes, when I look at the amount of money we're spending on stuff that's going back into the business, and I think about all the cool things I could buy with that if I just took that and took it out for myself.
You wouldn't have time to play with them anyway.
Yeah, that's true. So it's you kind of create a monster of its own. Like to keep making the money, you got to stay busy, and so you're making more money, but then you don't have time to play with any toys. So, but that's not totally true. There's definitely rewards, and honestly, the impact that we make in the industry and the ability to hire people and all that is way more important to me than whatever toys that I might be able to buy. Like I love my toys, but being able to provide people with careers, and be able to make a good living and to be able to try to be a positive influence in the community, that's way more important to me than any of the toys. So they kind of come last. All right, keeping this one happy, that's the main thing. Thankfully, that's not hard to do. She's not high maintenance at all. Basically, just again, let her come to work and bring the dogs with her. She's pretty much good to go. So
another puppy might make me super happy. But I'm also going to need a nanny for my puppies if we get another puppy.
For sure.
I do want to add one thing about totally unrelated. We get lots and lots and lots of emails about, can you send me a new box and a COA? My knife did not come with that. And I know that it's frustrating because I have to say every time, like, you have to send your knife in or we can't do that, because we used to be able to do that. And it wasn't a big deal at all. But now it's a very big deal because I had one this week that got here, I think Friday, and it's fake. So like we cannot ever again send out a COA or a box unless you're going to send the knife in. And that also means that you take the responsibility if that knife gets lost in the system, because like it's totally not like we sent it out with a box and a COA. Like we didn't send it out with one.
Yeah.
And it's totally not our fault. We will be glad to help you out. You will have to send your knife in, and you do have to take responsibility if it gets lost along the way.
Yeah. Because what will happen, guys, is people will buy, they'll come, either they buy it or they come across a knockoff, and then they want to get the box and COA to go with it. Well, then they're just, whether intentional or not, that's going to get passed along then as a real one. Like some people are just going to continue to be getting scammed or whatever with it. So, and obviously we're not going to support that. And so yeah. And the other part of that, I'll go ahead and give you a heads up too. If you do send one in, it's in the instructions for sending them in with this in the email. Part of the deal with that is if you send in a knife to us to have it like certified that it's, real, to get a box or a COA, then you're agreeing to the fact that if it is not real and it's a fake, that you're not getting it back because we're going to destroy it. So that's part of the deal.
Extremely obvious that it's a fake.
Yes. Yeah. The one we got in was
the minute I took it out of the box. And this is not the first time this has happened. This happened several times now. But that is why we have to. What did I say the other day? People are the reason we have to have rules.
Yeah. That's why you have to have policies, because every time it's because somebody did something.
And the bad thing is, Jonathan and I are both very like giving, like we want to make people happy. We want to do the right thing by people, but we have to draw the line somewhere, and the line has to be that if we have to see it.
Yeah, and because if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be helping somebody. We would be screwing people over down the line, because somebody's going to end up getting that knife that, that doesn't know it's a fake, and they're going to be fooled even more because we sent stuff to kind of legitimize it. So, and we're not going to get too deep down that rabbit hole today, guys. I've talked about it before, and we may talk about it again soon, but guys, do not tolerate people supporting and buying fakes and knockoffs out there, and don't call them clones. They're not a damn clone. That makes it sound too like, okay, it's a knockoff, it's a fake, and that's what it is. And it does hurt the people that are being knocked off. It's not an innocent crime.
The time that it takes to deal with them,
right?
That's taking time out of our day to look at that knife and then have to email back and forth with the person who is not very happy when we tell them it's a fake. It's
all the communication, all that stuff, guys. Like, time is money, as everybody's heard, and that's true. When you're running a business, time is money, and when we have to take time out to deal with all the communication back and forth and all that, to deal with somebody that's got a fake knife, that does hurt. So, and that's not to mention how many people out there see these fakes that we haven't gotten one in here yet that is actually like functions well and is like of the same quality as the stuff that we build. I know you see these people that they're basically trying to like justify to everybody else and to themselves why they're buying cheap ass fakes, but this is better than the original. Well, everyone we've had our hands on are pieces of shit. I'm just going to tell you. So
it's really bad.
Yeah. And so what worries me is how many people are being shown these out there in the wild, somebody that owns one, whether knowingly or not, and they're getting it and they're showing it off to their buddies or whatever, and they get a bad impression because it's a piece of shit, and then they never give us another look.
Tell everybody we have QC issues because we sent that piece of garbage out.
Right, when it wasn't even us in the first place. So anyway, it's harmful. The only solution that I know of is to not attack, but to go after the people that are promoting the stuff. If there was anything we could do about the people in China that are doing it, I would gladly do it. Or the companies that are selling it on their websites, I would gladly take action if there was anything that I thought we could do. But what we can do as a community is to shame these people, and anytime somebody is promoting them or saying they're okay or they're showing one off or whatever, we need to absolutely.
They got little Dixon energy when they're showing them.
They ain't even got that much. Yeah. So that is like, guys, it's so stupid. Like, they want to act like that's better than the original or whatever. Well, the only reason you even want it is because the original is out there. Like nobody would want a Rolex if a Rolex cost $20. Nobody would even want a fake Rolex. Like, think about it. Like, nobody would want a fake Dixon if a fake Dixon cost $75. Because it would be a cheap knife, and they wouldn't even worry about buying you know what I'm saying? Like, the whole reason they get them in the first place is because they want to look like they've got something that's more expensive than what they're actually willing to spend. It's the same thing across the board. Like I said, with purses and Rolexes, you probably all know somebody that's got a fake purse or a fake watch or whatever, and they strut around in it acting like they're a big shot, knowing in their heart that they're a loser because they're walking around with some fake shit. But it's the same thing. So it's all just excuses and trying to justify it as to why they're buying something that's a fake piece of shit. But that's what they are. So the best clone out there, I caught myself. The best knockoff out there is still, even if it's technically well done, it's still a piece of shit because somebody literally stole the intellectual property to make it. So like who if you're okay with that, you're just not a very good person. So I'm totally good with shaming people and basically kind of shame them right out of the community if they don't change their ways, because we don't need people like that here. They're bad for the entire community. So as far as I'll rant on that today. We may do a whole nother episode on that later, but for now, that's good.
But speaking of little Dixon energy, you spent a good chunk of the weekend designing our new graphic, right?
Yeah, still haven't got it completely done, but we're working on new shirt graphics, particularly for Blade Show, but then obviously we'll have them after that. So we're working on some new graphics. We got those of you that have the Dixons that have seen the stickers that come with them. We've got a new version for the little Dixons. So yeah, we're trying to come up with some cool stuff. Going to try to have some decently cool swag at Blade Show as well. And we do have those of you that were on Whatnot. Already saw them, but this hat I've got on is our brand new American-made hats. These are not the Richardson 112s anymore. Those hats are good and all, but they're not American-made. So these are American-made. They're a little bit more expensive. We tried to keep the price as low as we possibly could. For now, for the moment at least, between now and Blaze Show, we're not going to sell them anywhere but on Whatnot. And we've got at least one other colorway that we're going to be dropping. So keep an eye on Whatnot for that. And as we said on there last night, we try to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. Because you look out there's a lot of these companies that are talking American-made, and they're all about American-made when they're talking about their knives. But then when it comes to all their other products, their swag and stuff that they're selling, it's like they just completely forget about American-made. And they're selling shirts that were made, wherever, Vietnam, wherever, hats, same deal. Like all their stuff seems to be, maybe not all their stuff, but a lot of their stuff, especially clothing. And I get it. It's not near as much of a profit margin. Our shirts,
it's a whole lot easier to find other stuff too. Like it's pretty difficult to find some of the stuff that we've been able to find. It is.
We could carry and sell a whole lot more like non-knife stuff, swag and stuff than we do if we were willing to just get stuff made wherever. But by trying to stick to American-made stuff, it definitely limits us, cuts down the profit margin. But again, I like to sleep well at night, and we like to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So yes, American-made hats. Our shirts are already American-made, and just keep that in mind, guys. When you're out there spending your money with these companies, like are they legitimately walking the walk, or are they just like all about their knives, and then the rest of it is kind of just okay to do whatever? Because that seems a little dishonest to me, to be honest with you.
Well, I think you have to keep in mind too that some of the other countries don't necessarily love us and might not care what they put in products that may or may not be hazardous to your health.
That's true. I don't know that much about all the restrictions.
Are kind of under fire right now for some of the bad stuff that's in leggings that have some forever stuff that's going to stick with you. That I probably own some of them, and that's a little scary.
Yep. So anyway, yeah, that's just some food for thought, guys. Like I said, we're trying really hard to do everything absolutely as much as possible, keeping it made in the U.S. all the way down to our clothes and stuff like that. So just make sure you if that matters to you, which I hope it does, if that matters to you, make sure you kind of pay attention to that with where you're shopping and see what they're actually doing when it comes down to when it gets a little harder. Like I said, you can't make as much profit and you can't find as much stuff to sell if you try to stick to that.
And your wait times are also definitely longer.
Yeah. But we feel like it's the right thing to do. So we appreciate you guys. We're going to get out of here, and we will talk to you again next week. Make sure you join us. We're going to do another Whatnot show this week. Not sure yet if it's going to be Friday or Saturday. Just make sure you get on there and subscribe to us so you can see it. We're having a ton of fun with that. I really am. I'm having a lot of fun.
Y'all definitely make us laugh.
Yeah, it's just a great hangout. Like, even if you're not interested in buying anything, come on there and hang out with us, because it's just a lot of fun. We do a lot of chit-chatting and everything. We do way more chit-chatting than we do actually selling stuff. So just come hang out with us. All right, we appreciate you guys. Hope you have a fantastic week.
See ya.
I was afraid that 40.